You did everything right. You built the emergency fund. You bought the insurance. And your money is still sitting there, doing absolutely nothing. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Cash that just sits quietly shrinks. Inflation takes a bite every year. And after a decade, the pile you were proud of buys noticeably less. So this is the episode where your money finally starts working. But hear the order, because the order is everything. In episode 3, we poured the foundation, your cash reserve. In episode 4, we raised the walls, your insurance. Today, we put on the roof. Investing is the roof of your wealth structure. Not the foundation, not the starting point, the roof. And that distinction will save you real money. A roof is the last thing you build, and it protects everything underneath it for decades. Put a roof on bare ground, and you do not get shelter. You get expensive material lying in the mud. That is what happens when someone invests before they have cash and coverage in place. The first emergency forces them to sell at the worst possible moment. So today, understand the structure, apply it with your own numbers, and take one action before this video ends.
Let me make the roof rule concrete. A roof only works if it stays on. Nobody builds one planning to take it off in 18 months. That is the most important thing about investing. Money you invest is money you are not touching for at least 10 years. That is the 10-year lock-in rule, the cleanest filter you will ever apply to your finances. Ask one question about any dollar you are about to invest. Can I truly leave this alone for 10 years? If the answer is no, that dollar does not belong in the market. It belongs in your foundation. Cash, high-yield savings, short-term. If the answer is yes, it belongs under the roof. Why 10 years? Because the market goes down. Not might, does. It has fallen more than 30% multiple times in living memory, and it has recovered every time. But recovery takes years, not weeks. 10 years is the window where the odds shift decisively in your favor. Investors who held broad index funds for any 20-year stretch came out ahead. Investors who panicked in year 2 did not. Same market, same funds, different outcome. The difference was never intelligence. It was structure. The foundation and the walls are what let you keep the roof on when the storm hits.
Now, what actually goes on the roof? Here is where most people get sold something expensive. The financial industry is built on a promise. Pay a professional, and that professional will beat the market. It is a beautiful pitch. It is also, statistically, almost never true. S&P Global publishes a scorecard every year tracking active fund managers against their benchmark. In 2025, 79% of all active large-cap United States equity funds underperformed the S&P 500. That was the 4th worst year for stock pickers in the 25-year history of that scorecard. And it gets more brutal with time. Stretch the window to 15 years, and more than 90% of large-cap active funds lag the index. In the most recent 20-year data, there was not one category, not domestic equity, not international, not fixed income, where the majority of active managers beat their benchmark. Not one. These are full-time professionals with research teams, and 9 out of 10 lose to a fund that does nothing but buy the whole market and sit still. So the strategy is not to find the genius. The strategy is to stop paying for one.
So here is the roof itself, a low-cost, broad market index core. 3 components, and you can build it in about 20 minutes. First, your core, a total United States stock market index fund, or an S&P 500 fund. Roughly 60% of your invested money. Second, international exposure, a total international stock index fund, roughly 20 to 30%. Third, bonds, a total bond market index fund, roughly 10 to 20%, and you increase that share as you age. A simple rule of thumb, take 110, subtract your age, and that is the rough percentage of your portfolio in stocks. 30 years old means about 80% stocks. 60 years old means about 50%. That is the whole roof. Now, the part almost nobody checks, the expense ratio. That is the annual fee charged on everything you hold. A broad index fund today costs about 0.05%. A typical actively managed fund costs about 1.25%. On a $100,000 portfolio, that is $50 a year versus $1,250 a year. Same market, 25 times the cost.
And fees do not just cost you the fee. They cost you everything that fee would have earned. Let me show you with real arithmetic. Take $500 a month, invested for 30 years at a 7% average annual return. You personally contribute $180,000. You end with roughly $610,000. Compounding did $430,000 of the work. You did the rest by simply not stopping. Now run the same 30 years with that 1.25% fee eating into your return. Your effective growth drops, and you end with roughly $479,000 instead. That fee just cost you about $125,000. Not 1.25%, $125,000, more than 2/3 of everything you contributed out of your own pocket. That is why the expense ratio is not a footnote. It is the largest controllable variable in your investing life. You can't control the market or the economy. You can absolutely control what you pay, and paying less is the only free upgrade in finance.
Next, where you hold the roof matters as much as what the roof is made of. Same funds, different account, wildly different result because of tax. Bucket 1, and this is the highest priority claim on your money, your workplace plan, up to the employer match. If your employer matches 5% and you earn $60,000, that is $3,000 a year they hand you for participating. There is no investment on earth with a guaranteed 100% instant return. Take it first, always. Bucket 2, an individual retirement account. In 2026, you can put in $7,500 or $8,600 if you are 50 or older. A Roth version means you pay tax now, and all growth comes out tax-free later. Bucket 3, back to the workplace plan to fill the rest of the limit. $24,500 in 2026, plus $8,000 more if you are 50 or older. Only after those buckets are full does money go into a taxable brokerage account. Same index funds, every level, just a smarter container. Before we act, the 3 mistakes that collapse roofs. 1. Investing money you will need inside 10 years. That is not investing. That is gambling with a deadline. 2. Chasing whatever went up last year. By the time a sector is on the news, you are buying the top from the people who bought the bottom. 3. Stopping during a crash. The crash is when your automatic contribution buys the most shares for the same dollar. Selling then is the only way to make a temporary loss permanent. Now, the investment wall check framework. 5 steps. Step 1. Confirm your foundation. 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash, untouched. Step 2. Confirm your walls. Health, disability, and life coverage active. Step 3. Claim the full employer match. Today, not next quarter. Step 4. Choose your core allocation using 110 minus your age in index funds with an expense ratio under 0.1%. Step 5. Automate the contribution on payday so the decision is made once instead of 12 times a year. Those 5 steps in that order. Skipping one is how the roof comes off.
So here is your one action, and it takes about 4 minutes. Open your retirement account right now and find the expense ratio of every fund you hold. Write down 2 numbers, the highest expense ratio you are paying and the percentage of your salary you are currently contributing. That is the wall check test. If that highest number is above 0.5%, you have found money that is leaving your life every year for no reason. If your contribution is below your employer match, you are declining a raise. Screenshot those 2 numbers today. Fix them this week. Because this is what the roof actually buys you. Not a number on a screen, but a night where you do not lie awake doing math. A structure where a bad year in the market is weather, not catastrophe. Cash underneath, walls around, roof on top. That is the architecture. If this gave you one clear next step, subscribe. The Wealth Foundation series builds each structure in order, because in the next structure, we will show how the shield, your advanced asset and tax shelters, goes up now that the roof of your investments is securely in place.